Namaskar and welcome to Diplomatic Dispatch, the show that brings you in-depth expert analysis of all the major happenings on the international front. I am your host, Vikas Swarup. On the 6th of February, a massive earthquake measuring 7.8 on the Richter scale struck southern Turkiye and parts of Syria, followed by more than 400 aftershocks. 36,000 people are already dead, and the UN says that up to 5.3 million people in Syria may be homeless. Immediately on receiving news of this tragedy, Prime Minister Narendra Modi directed that all possible assistance be extended to the affected people. So, in this episode, we will discuss Operation Dost and India's increasing profile as a first responder and net security provider. Humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, or HADR, has emerged as an important focus of India's foreign policy in recent years. India first signaled its intent to be a leading actor during emergencies in its neighborhood when the 2004 tsunami hit the Indian Ocean. While dealing with the huge devastation in parts of India, the Indian Navy also coordinated simultaneous relief operations in Sri Lanka, Maldives, and Indonesia that caught global attention. Since then, India has showcased its HADR prowess in a number of theatres. Whether it has been cyclones in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Mozambique, the Philippines and Fiji, earthquakes in Japan and Nepal, evacuations from conflict zones like Yemen, the typhoon in Myanmar, the water crisis in the Maldives, or the oil and chemical spill in Sri Lankan waters, India has responded with speed and solidarity. To combat piracy in the Gulf of Aden, India has deployed almost 30 warships that have escorted more than 1,500 ships since 2008. During the COVID-19 pandemic, India launched Vaccine Maitri to provide made-in-India vaccines to countries which did not have sufficient supplies. Under the Sagar Doctrine envisioned by Prime Minister Modi, India is cooperating with multiple partners to ensure security and growth for all in the region while tackling threats such as natural disasters. All these initiatives have strengthened India's role as a net security provider and as a first responder that stands with its neighbors in times of crisis. In fact, India has gone a step further and seeks to achieve greater cohesion and international collaboration in enhancing disaster risk reduction and resilience. With this goal in mind, Prime Minister Modi launched the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure at the UN Climate Action Summit in September 2019. It is envisaged as a global partnership that aims to promote resilience of new and existing infrastructure systems to climate and disaster risks and already has 31 countries and 8 organizations as members. So India's response to the earthquake in Türkiye and Syria is but a natural extension of India's role as a first responder in its neighborhood. Under Operation Dost, India has sent more than 250 personnel, including 3 self-sustained search and rescue teams of the National Disaster Response Force, specialized equipment and other relief material amounting to more than 135 tons to Turkiye on 7 C-17 IAF aircrafts. The 60 parafield hospital set up in Iskenderun has treated more than 1,500 injured. As regards Syria, more than 30 tons of emergency relief assistance has been provided by India, including gensets, solar lamps, emergency and critical care medicines. To learn more about Operation Dost, I am privileged to have with me in the studio 2 eminent guests. His Excellency Firat Sunel is Turkiye's ambassador to India since July 2021. Besides being a professional diplomat, he is also an award-winning author with 3 published novels, one of which was adapted into a TV series. Mr. Atul Karwal is Director General of the National Disaster Response Force. An IPS officer of the 1988 batch, he is also a black belt in martial arts, an ultra-marathoner and triathlete, and a mountaineer who scaled Mount Everest in 2008 as a member of the Indian Police Mount Everest expedition. A very warm welcome to both of you. Let me start with you, Ambassador Sunel. Nasılsınız?
Teşekkür ederim. Namaste. I try to feel well because the situation is very bad in Turkey, as you know. But thank you very much.
So tell our viewers, how big a tragedy is the earthquake which hit your country?
It seems to be the biggest tragedy, biggest devastation in the history of Turkish Republic, I think. Two huge earthquakes with magnitude of 7.6 and 7.7 hit Turkey, and 10 provinces where more than 13 million people live are affected. The devastation is really huge, and this is an area, it's bigger than Ireland, bigger than Hungary, Azerbaijan, Switzerland, so many countries, bigger than Bihar, West Bengal, Uttarakhand, twice as big as Punjab. So I give these examples only to give you an idea how big the devastation. So 10 major cities in southeastern Turkey just devastated. And when we give you some number, I don't like to give numbers when we are talking about humans' life, but the death toll is, the confirmed death toll is now about 35,000. But the number is increasing. Thousands of injured people are there, and thousands of collapsed buildings. So the situation is very harsh. And now, especially because of the winter condition, this is now a winter season there, and in the night time it's -5 degrees Celsius. Although there are tens of thousands of rescue workers, government workers working to help and carry out relief actions for those people, this situation is very, very harsh, as I said. The people need tents, people need blankets and sleeping bags. So we carry out an in-kind action in India, and we receive really so many help material from generous people of India. And immediately the same day we send all kind of materials to Turkey by Turkish Airlines and delivered directly to the region, and our agencies distribute the people who are in need. And but this is also not easy thing, because so many materials and we cannot send them all of them in the same time. And thinking of this, we opened also a donation account with the approval of the Indian government, with a gesture of Indian government, because it is not always an easy thing to open such kind of account for a foreign mission. So I would love to ask Indian people to donate in cash, because cash donations can be delivered immediately to the agencies, and can we use them also immediately. So the account number you can distribute, I would be very happy if you can distribute. Just one warning, please donate only to our official accounts. Don't trust anybody else. There are so many reports in social media. Please just transfer the donation money to our account. This is an account, official account, approved by the Indian government. Thank you.
Director General Karwal, now India is increasingly a first responder in disaster situations extending way beyond our neighborhood. We have assisted countries as far as Mozambique and Fiji, and deployed teams in places like Japan and now Turkey. How do you assess India's HADR capabilities?
India had started providing HADR assistance way back in 1957, right after independence. But since 2004, it's gathered momentum. As you mentioned, 2004, we provided assistance to Sri Lanka, Indonesia, when the tsunami struck us in this region. After that, 2011, a team was sent when Japan faced a huge earthquake, 8.9 on the Richter scale. And 2015, we went to Nepal with a huge team of 700 plus rescuers and rescue dogs. And that was very well appreciated by the Japanese Prime Minister and the Nepalese government at that point in time. Right after 2004, the National Disaster Management Authority and the NDRF, the National Disaster Response Force that I'm a part of now, they got established. And since then, we have really gathered momentum, and we feel that we are much stronger in giving HADR assistance to the neighborhood and even beyond the neighborhood. To prepare ourselves for that, we have joint exercises with regional cooperation fora such as the Asian countries, the BIMSTEC countries, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Quad, again we are working with. So all these joint exercises prepare us just for this kind of a situation, that when a disaster strikes, an earthquake in particular, because it's difficult to predict, and it hits us maybe with a few seconds of prediction, if at all possible, and creates a large-scale havoc, as we have seen happening in Turkiye, very unfortunately. So we were well prepared. In addition to that, the might of the defense forces now, which can ferry us across the globe. The Indian Air Force planes took not just the rescuers, but they also carried our canine complement, they carried our vehicles, carried medicines, carried tentage, rations, so that when we landed there, we were self-sufficient. So all this approach of the whole of government, where all departments, all organizations chip in to make the most effective response possible, is what has now put India at a stage where our competence, our reach is much beyond what was there earlier.
Ambassador Sunel, what are your thoughts on Operation Dost, particularly its name? Because we know that this name was inspired by your earlier statements to the Indian media.
Dost means friend in Hindi and Turkish language, and friends help each other always. We have a proverb in Turkey, dost kara günde belli olur. It is like a friend in need is a friend indeed. So real dosts help each other. You may remember 2 years ago when I arrived in India, you were secretary at the Minister of External Affairs, and that was during second wave of COVID time. And Turkey sent 2 A400 planes full with 45 tons of medical aid to India. And now a very big earthquake happens in Turkey, and region is devastating, and India is among the first countries who sent help to Turkey. So this is a sign of friendship. So that's why the name of Operation Dost is very important. It's a symbolic name. It is the name of friendship, and it's a landmark operation, Operation Dost, because so history repeats itself. 102 years ago, in 1920-21, India supported Turkey in its independence struggle, sent materials, money, and now after 102 years, it happens again. So this is what I call is friendship. And the Operation Dost is a landmark operation because first of the name, first of the meaning, so we will never forget this operation, and also a very crucial and functional operation. Because, you know, the first 72 hours after earthquake is crucial. And in the framework of Operation Dost, India sent first batch of the planes, 2 planes loaded with professional experts, search and rescues, with their full equipments and vehicles within the first 24 hours. Third and the 4th plane, they landed in Turkey within the first 48 hours. And then 5th plane was full with field hospital material. And then 6th plane with medical equipment. So I just want to say that was a perfect organized, well-organized operation.
Now, Director General Karwal, as Ambassador Sunel just said, India was able to respond very, very quickly. In fact, within hours of the assistance request being received, our teams were there. How was the NDRF able to deploy its teams so quickly?
As soon as the news reached India, our Honorable Prime Minister pledged full support. Driven by that very clear direction, the Prime Minister's office held an urgent meeting and they took all the stakeholders on board, such as the NDMA, the NDRF, the Home Ministry, the Foreign Ministry, the Indian Air Force. And coincidentally enough, NDRF has been preparing 2 medium urban search and rescue teams for an international certification. The teams were available, trained, equipped, and they could be sent at a moment's notice. So these teams are available in Ghaziabad and Kolkata, and with the direction that we have to mobilize the teams right away. So several parallel things took place. One is, we realized that in such a situation, the local administration would be in a state of struggling to cope up with this huge tragedy. So we should not count on them for any support, and we should go completely self-sufficient. So we added, along with the equipment, a lot of tentage, food for 15 days, fuel for the cooking, even vehicles, so that we don't depend on transportation on them, and we are completely on our own. Whatever task we are given, we can accomplish. In parallel, the Foreign Ministry made official passports, working overtime through the night for all the rescuers, who were 51 in number. We added 5 lady rescuers who are doing so well that they volunteered to go. So all this happened. Along with that, the Indian Air Force mobilized their plane and prepared it for loading. We requested Indo-Tibetan Border Police, who gave us the best of winter clothing. So with the whole of government approach, as is followed now for such initiatives, things just fell into place and coordination was flawless. So the first team left at 0300 hours on 7th morning, as the ambassador said, within 24 hours of the earthquake hitting Turkiye.
Ambassador Sunel, were you surprised by this quick reaction by the Indian government?
Yes, I was pleasantly surprised. From the early hours, I was called by the Minister of External Affairs very early morning. Mr. Sanjay Verma, Secretary West, called me, and he said India is ready to do whatever it's possible. And in that point, none of us were aware of the volume, dimension of the devastation. But that was such a huge moral support. So, because if somebody calls you and say we are ready to help you, then you don't feel alone. So first place, on the first place, moral support is very, very important. And during the day, there were also other statements, starting with Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi. He made a statement and expressed his solidarity. And later, Dr. Jaishankar, Minister of External Affairs, he also issued some statement. Even some of them are in Turkish language. So these are really big support for us. And His Excellency Muralidharan, he visited me at the embassy personally and brought the solidarity messages of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Dr. Jaishankar. So very big support. But we didn't receive just moral support. Upon the instruction of Prime Minister of India, a crisis center just convened at the minister's office, and they told and planned how to help Turkey. And then later I was also invited to this meeting. Everything was very, very swift, and then immediately after the meeting, India was able to send the first 2 planes to Turkey.
Director General, what does the NDRF bring to the table in terms of handling natural disasters like earthquakes?
I think NDRF is a unique force across the world dedicated to all natural and man-made disasters, and a standalone force dedicated completely for this, not collected at a point in time when disasters may happen or have happened, but we are there 24/7 through the year, and we are there for the last 17 years now. So we have 16 battalions now spread across the nation. Each battalion has got 18 teams. That makes a total of 288 teams across the nation. Each team is trained for urban search and rescue, equipped to international standards. Their fitness, their training is of the superlative category. Along with this training and equipping, there are 2 other dimensions which help us. One is we conduct awareness campaigns. We conduct school safety programs. We conduct community awareness programs, so that when a disaster like this happens, to which there is barely any prediction possible, the people should know how to safeguard themselves and their families, how to respond, how to react, so that they save more lives within their families and they know what to do. The third thing is that we have something called the National Disaster Response Reserve, which means that NDRF as a force is authorized to stockpile items like sleeping bags, like blankets, like pumps, like generator sets, like dignity kits, like baby food. Everything that can be envisaged, anticipated would be required in a disaster situation. So I buy stockpiles of that and keep it ready, so that when something as unfortunate as the Turkiye earthquake happens, whatever the need is doesn't need to be procured. I have it handy. So that's how the NDRF is prepared in all dimensions to respond, to initially prepare the populace for something which can hit us out of the blue like it did this time, and also to support thereafter by making resources available which would be useful to us.
Your Excellency, how's the relief effort going? I understand more than 80 countries have teams on the ground.
Yes, now all government bodies are on the ground, working together in cooperation with foreign rescue workers. Turkish Disaster and Emergency Management Authority is there, Turkish Red Crescent is there, doctors are there, and also foreign missions. So there are altogether 100 countries who offers help to Turkey, and 80 of them are on the ground. And as I said, India is among them, and India has the fourth biggest mission among the foreign aid organizations in Turkey. So they are working very diligently. They opened a field hospital, and it became a legend in Turkey. So whenever I look in social media, I see some photos from those field hospital. They have treated already 1,500, more than 1,500 patients. Altogether, foreign rescue and relief workers are about 10,000.
Director General, what are the challenges that the NDRF team in Turkey is facing? Are there some factors hampering the rescue efforts?
The challenges are very many, some of them anticipated. Like in a disaster situation like this, we know that we can't really depend on the local administration, which would be struggling to maybe tackle more important things on any kind of a transportation, water, hygiene, sanitation, food. But the additional challenges in this case were, number one, we had reached, say we departed at 0300 hours, so within 2300 hours our teams were airborne. By the time we reached, we had lost some bit of the golden hour for retrieving live victims, which was, you can't turn the clock back, so we had that constraint. Number two, as His Excellency just mentioned, the devastation is very widespread. So one was struggling to cope up, and the teams had to work continuously, sometimes without rest. So we had to take shifts and just carry on through the night. The climatic conditions are a challenge for us because the structures which could have accommodated our teams are unstable, and one doesn't want to accommodate the rescuers in them, because rescuers, if they are safe, then they are of help. So they are staying in tentage, the cold is there. Plus the language is an issue which sometimes we struggle with, though we have interpreters. The guides are not local. So these are, some of them are situations that we presume would prevail and we prepare accordingly. But some of situations which have made this operation certainly more complicated, more difficult. But it is a matter of, I would say, pride that India is being of assistance to Turkiye in such a situation. India has come up as a dominant aid provider in such situations, not just in the neighborhood, but now across the globe. So it's a matter of, I would say, good fortune that we have Operation Dost with Turkiye, and we are able to deploy resources to help them in this time of crisis.
Ambassador Sunel, let's now expand the discussion a little bit. Now, Turkiye has joined the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. Why is this initiative important?
Yes, Turkey joined this coalition upon invitation of Dr. Jaishankar, Minister of External Affairs, in 2020. This is a very important forum because it's a functional body, functional forum, providing sharing of know-how, experience and knowledge between their members, and not only between their members, also with some NGOs and international organizations. And not only immediate threats, so disasters, but it's also dealing climate change, natural disaster, in such topics as well. That's why it's very, very important forum.
Director General, how do you see the future of HADR? Will we be using more space-based applications, geospatial capabilities, artificial intelligence? I mean, you are a person on the field, so...
So a lot of this technology could come in very handy. So we have active collaboration with the National Remote Sensing Center in Hyderabad, who have made a special portal for us called the NDEM, National Database for Emergency Management. So what they have done is, over the last 200 years data they have collected, and they have created flood hazard atlases, landslide vulnerable maps. They have an algorithm for predicting forest fires depending on the precipitation and the temperatures which are prevailing, so that they can use AI to tell us what is possible to hit us and where, so that my deployment is not reactive, it's proactive. In a similar manner, we are working with Gati Shakti, which has got 1400 layers of data to tell us that if I have a problem, that in this kind of a precipitation, flood, cyclone situation, which road would remain open, which is the closest hospital for us to take our victims to, all that is available to me online. So a lot of AI is being used to somehow find a trend in how things are evolving with climate change, and if we can extrapolate and find out what may happen in the future, then I can be better prepared.
Your Excellency, now India and Turkiye both are members of the G20, and the theme, as you know, of India's G20 presidency is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future. Now, after Operation Dost, do you think this theme is specially resonant?
Yes, very. So we live on a ship, what we call Earth, and we are a family. 8 billion people is a family, and we have only one future. That's why the topic of Indian presidency is very, very relevant in this case. And we have now global threats. We can answer those threats only when we are answering together, when we are in unity. So that's why the topic is also very important. If you had asked me, give me an example of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, I would tell you the Operation Dost will be a living example.
Well, thank you very much, Ambassador Sunel and Director General Karwal, for sharing your thoughts with our viewers. Operation Dost is India's latest expression of being a first responder, a net security provider, and a country whose humanitarian assistance and disaster relief response is quick and available to countries not only in the neighboring region, but also beyond. This is not just an exercise in public diplomacy, but a role and responsibility that India sees for itself in line with its capabilities, in the true spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family. That is all I have for you in this episode. I will be back next week with another dispatch from the world of diplomacy. Till then, take care and goodbye.